What's up, everybody? KleverKrok back for week 3, I think. Yes, let's go with that. Week 3 of season 4 of the GTA. Today, we've got the coach of Because I'm Zubatman. What's up, man?
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Bien, ¿y tú? That's
All right, that's all
good,
I got.
and you for those who don't speak Spaniel. Alright, so we're just going to go through the 5 matches of this week. We did have a forfeit, um, so we have one less match to talk about.
So,
And I guess we'll go ahead and start with this match, which is between the Haunted Hoonedges and the Richmond Ricos. So I'll start off here. Don't know why I'm speaking in this accent, but I look at the team and when we saw my match against the Hoonedges, they had a pretty good matchup against my team, and Dragonite really put in the work against my team despite the fact that I had Gardevoir. And I look at this matchup and it's not it's not the best for the Honages. I mean, Scizor and Volcanion kind of ripped through his team. I mean, he's also got Landorus, so the Intimidate's harsh on Excadrill and Dragonite. But like in general, his team is just it's a really really advantageous matchup against the Honages. The Raikos definitely, in my opinion, have the better matchup here. David?
absolutely. As far as like misplays, I wouldn't say that there were a whole lot in the way of like glaring problems. I thought maybe not leaving Excadrill in changed things a little bit, but for the most part, there was just nothing that the Hone Edges could do. There were no good switch-ins. There was nothing that you could um, really do to change things. There was a lot of momentum on Chase's side, and he just never let it go.
Yeah, and I think they did the best they could, honestly. The matchup was just there was an answer for everything. It seemed like so.
Exactly, exactly. And when priority Scizor is going to destroy most of your team's,
He
it,
had no
it,
answers, especially once Slowking was gone.
yeah. And I will say, part of what made things tough was Rotom, because that's supposed to be your answer. There, you got an electric type. He's going to resist Bullet Punch, but after one Sword Dance, we see that he lost over half his health from one single Bullet Punch. I will say, learning point from the last turn. Rotom tried to trick a Mega Pokemon. That's not an option, guys. Cannot trick a Mega Stone off a Pokemon. Although that would be cool.
Oh, that would be crazy. If you could, you'd
I
see
think
that so much more often in the meta.
everyone would be running trick, but it would be hilarious.
Yeah, that would just break the game. I think it would just make it too confusing. But yeah, that was. I mean, at that point, he didn't really have anything he could have done. He probably should have gone for Will-O-Wisp if he wanted a chance of like doing it. But yeah, like you said, at that point, like it was just something that like he just needs to learn from. But
I'm imagining if he is tricking it, it's probably Spec. So
or Scarf
like,
maybe.
maybe a Scarf. But either way, you can't Will-O-Wisp. I mean,
Yeah, that's true.
you're, yep, you're up the creek without a paddle if you're stuck on Will-O-Wisp. So, but he kind of was anyway. So anyway.
Yeah. All right. So the next match is the match between Zubatman and the Alakazam apparitions. And I'll let you start this one, David.
If you look at the setup, both teams came in with good Pokemon. Um, both teams were set up pretty decently, honestly. Um, you've got a Firewater Grass Core on his side. Um, you've got physical special sweepers. Really, Reuniclus is the only wall there, and that might have been um, one of the biggest issues. But I mean, honestly, it's a formidable team looking through it. On the other side, you've got Ditto, who was there to anti-sweep. Um, and then Mega Pincer um, are the two big scary um, sweepers. Besides that, there really wasn't anything in the way of a sweeper. But as far as the setup goes, I can't say that one team or the other was going in heavily favored.
Yeah, I honestly thought that, in my opinion, that the Alakazams had a really good matchup against your team. I was expecting the Terrakion, but I understand why you didn't bring it. Um, but Heatran was really good against your team here, but I think that Thundurus Therian was probably his most advantageous Pokemon in this matchup. With the Scarf, he would have outsped the Pinsir, would have one-shot it with Volt Switch. Quick Attack wouldn't have KO'd it, obviously, because of the resist and stuff. So, like, I saw that he could have really, like, taken advantage of that if he given the opportunity. But, as we see here, he does pretty well, I think, in my opinion. I feel like both sides played decently. But he started out with making a good prediction and going for Volt Switch to get the priority here. Now, I would have. He probably got lucky with that superpower from onto the Chansey. I would have just gone for knockoff, but hey, whatever works. It still took it out, and that was a big win because Chansey just eats up all the hits that his team can throw right now. But I was kind of surprised at what Mawile did. Honestly, it did way more than I thought it would do because regular Mawile is just not that strong. It's a good typing, for sure. Steel Fairy is good. But it just doesn't have the stats to back it up. But it still got used well and ended up completely removing Heatran. The only other thing I would say here, and I don't know that his team right off the top of my head, but not having hazard removal was kind of a pain for him. He didn't have a way to get rid of hazards, and it didn't always like harm a ton of like things, but like Heatran was rendered useless. Thundurus was hindered. It was just quite the harm to most of his team, and by the time Pinsir came in, it was just over. So, good start. Like I said, the rocks was a real pain. He didn't know about Aerial 8, so I would just suggest that, especially with like abilities on their megas, to know what they do so that you can expect that in the future, or just like to know that like their best Pokemon or their most impactful Pokemon will, be something that you understand what it does. Because without Aerial 8, Quick Attack wouldn't have demolished the way it did, but it ripped through his team along with Return as well. So for those who don't know what Aerial 8 does, it's like Pixelate in the sense that it uses normal type moves and transfers them to be a different type. So Pixelate makes normal type moves into fairy type moves. Aerial 8 does that with normal type moves but turns them into flying moves instead. So just a tip to research those things in team prep before you go into your match. And if you don't understand, there's always the internet. You can also contact me or someone else to see if they know what it is or know how to explain it. So regardless, tangents aside, we'll go ahead and go on to the next match, which is the match between the Felidae and Maple Grove Gengars. Now, I really like Felidae's team in general. Like they just have a really kind of threatening team, and they've used the team pretty well so far this season. So I see that Latios just completely wrecks the other team. The only thing that could possibly be an answer is Gengar, but it speed ties with Latios, so it's not a reliable answer. Psyshock, I think with a Life Orb, takes out Sylveon in 2 hits, and it outspeeds, so if it switches in, obviously, like that would be an easy knockout there. Beartic was a pretty good option because it didn't have a they didn't have a single Pokemon that ice resists. And then I think he brings Rain Dance. We'll see. But the Swift Swim was pretty cool too. But I would have just gone for Stab, ice attacks like Icicle Crash or Ice Fang rather than the Aqua Jet that we'll see soon. Um, but yeah, I really favored the Felidae in this matchup, even though I like both of their teams. But Gengar and Nidoking also put in the work because Nidoking gets Flamethrower, Sheer Force, Life Orb, or just Sheer Force, demolishes Ferrothorn, which to people who don't really know what Sheer Force does or how strong Nidoking really is, that can be surprising. Gengar puts in a lot of work against his team with combination of Sludge Bomb and Shadow Ball, but that Mega Gyarados kind of walls it. So I think that's all I've got to say about the setup of this match. David?
As far as plays went, the one that really stood out to me was there was a moment early where Gyarados came in. I thought he came in a little early, but then instead of coming in and dragon dancing so that he was ready to go, he settled. He just started going straight for crunch, and that is a huge difference. That first dragon dance, and of course any subsequent dragon dances. But I mean, you want to talk about like a big difference in damage output, and you end up he stuck three shotting. Um, that oh Lord, I've lost it. The slug, the little slug guy,
Gastrodon.
Gastrodon. Thank you.
You're good.
um, but anyway, he's ended up stuck three shot in Gastrodon, and you're definitely moving in range to two shot. Um, I thought Dedenne was cool, but he's just so hard to run, and he gets one shotted by something that he's got a type advantage on. So the other thing that I will say, it looked like Machamp was not guts. It looked like he was no guard because they were running him with dynamic punch. But you do have to be careful paralyzing a Machamp. He could
Yeah,
wreck your
because of
deck.
guts.
He could wreck your deck. So,
Yep.
but yeah, it wasn't a bad match overall. Um, it was interesting that Ferrothorn is usually a great answer to poison types, but with Nidoking being there, Ferrothorn was not able to check his poison types at all. Um, since Flamethrower put him well within range, and also we had Boomerang for the win, so that's kind of awesome. By the way, Earthquake is a much more reliable move. So
Yeah, I definitely would have switched the Ferrothorn in on the Gengar because Shadow Ball doesn't do all that much, and the more likely Sludge Wave would have been immune, so it was just a much safer play. In addition to the fact that he should have gone for a D-Dance because he would have outsped Gengar and at least got rid of that. If not, weakened a lot more of his team before letting Gyarados go down, which was really important because Gyarados runs through this team. But the only other thing I saw is he used Aqua Jet after already triggering the Swift Swim with Rain Dance, which I did like the Rain Dance Swift Swim Beartic. That was pretty cool. But going for Aqua Jet when you already outspeed and you get stab and super effective damage with your ice attacks, I would have just gone for an Icicle Crash because that would have definitely KO'd the Nidoking and you could have got some more damage off or maybe forced the Machamp in with Bullet Punch, but it would have traded without having to make other Pokemon on your team lose a lot of damage or lose a lot of health, especially the Ferrothorn. So I think it
right,
was
and
just
if
a
you
few
trade out
things.
right, and if you trade out for Nidoking at that point, I mean you catch him in an awful catch 22. If you trade out for Nidoking at that point, Ferrothorn becomes much more usable as a wall, and if you don't, if he switches someone else in, they're going to be eating an Icicle Crash, which is not like you said. There wasn't much there to resist, so whatever switched in on that wasn't going to like it.
And
So
man, the Gyarados under rain would have been pretty scary too, especially with the
yeah,
Gastrodon gone. So that would have been another reason to preserve Gyarados. Never switch your Mega in unless you know it's not going to take damage from something. But Sludge Wave and Shadow Ball without Mega Form was going to do something to Gyarados. So,
Yeah, exactly. If he was already a Mega, that would have been different. But, but yeah,
yeah.
I would argue that that works more for sweeping Megas than there are some Megas that you're going to switch into Wall. But
Right.
at the same time, I think you're definitely right on the money with a sweeping Mega.
Yeah. And then I like the little bone ring at the end, like you were saying. That was pretty cool.
A little risky since, both have 100% accuracy, but yeah, it was cool.
Yeah. So then we're going to go ahead and go on to the next match, which is between the Kentucky Crocodiles and the Wiltshire Wobbuffets. David, I'll let you talk about the setup.
All right, just looking at it right away. Um, I gotta say, um, I would not have guessed it, but Barbarical ends up running through this team pretty good. You can see right off the bat that he's going to be a problem for Scolipede and for Tornadus, but um, the poison jab on him ends up making him just a
Uh,
nightmare proof. Yeah, tell us how you feel about that, Brandon.
uh,
Um, um, looking through, Swoobat was a really interesting choice. I've never been a big fan, um, but he ended up playing him okay. On the other side, I mean, I will say you're not looking at any of the cores that you hope to see in a team, but at the same time, you do have the Regenerator and Tornadus, which makes for a great U-turn pivot Pokemon. And you've got the Volt Turn combo in Jolteon and Tornadus. So, I mean, I was seeing some good things there. Also, uh, Scolipede and Mega Gardevoir is a terrifying combination because if you baton pass speed in the Mega Gardevoir, then you might just end up forgetting it. Um, so, yeah, both teams came with very threatening Pokemon. The only thing I will say is Fatal's team is a little fragile. If you look at Magmortar's slow, doesn't take physical attacks well. Swoobat's not exactly a speed demon either, and Heliolisk is a glass cannon. So you're looking at it was ran well, but it was a fragile team.
yeah, I was more susceptible to glare than I thought I would be. I didn't expect, honestly, Heliolisk to come. I knew what it could do, but I thought that with Donphan and Jolteon being likely options to bring, that it wouldn't be a concern. But he brought it, and that ended up being a huge problem for my team because it slowed down. It ruined my ability to have a Volturn core. It ruined my ability to baton pass like I was hoping to do into Mega Gardevoir. So that really kind of screwed things up and made things really hard to function because my team's strength in this match was to have the switch advantage and to be able to just put out damage and capitalize on immunities and resistances that I knew I could use. So as soon as like all my Pokemon, got pretty much glared into paralysis, it kind of sucked. But also, I got frozen twice, which really kind of stinks. And I'm glad I brought Scald, but it gave him a free switch in into Dry Skin Heliolisk because I had to go for Scald. So that really kind of stunk. I really didn't expect Poison Jab on the Barbarical, so that was a good thing. And he also was Scarfed, which I didn't think he would do because of Speed Boost Scolipede being a thing. But he definitely played that the way he needed to for it to work out. I also made the mistake of, since I didn't think that he would bring Heliolisk, especially Swoobat, because of Honchkrow, I brought Tornadus and Jolteon, who were, I think, at 318 speed to outspeed Kyurem Black and be a bit bulkier. So they weren't going to outspeed either of those, so I knew I was in trouble from that moment. So it was just somewhat poor planning on my part. And then he brought stuff I wasn't expecting him to bring, which really ended up working out for him. And my team just kind of fell apart really quickly as soon as he started paralyzing stuff. So
I think this was a definite. This match was definitely a an advertisement for bringing stuff that you like, not bringing the same stuff every week. If there ever was a match that
oh yeah.
point to and say this is why you don't bring the same thing every single week, this one was it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think just like I could have thought about the scarf. I should have brought Haunch Crow in my opinion. Um, I should have assumed that he would bring Heliolisk just because it does put in a lot of work with Glare, just Glare alone, honestly. But I didn't, and that ended up really biting me in the butt. And, live and learn. Can't win them all, obviously, but you learn and you continue to realize that new stuff happens every day. So, but yeah, you're right. This match is a good example of being creative and doing things that you aren't expected. So, really, the only thing that stunk about that second freeze, which you guys just saw, was that it would have been a 1-0 instead of a 2-0. I still wouldn't have lived, like, even an earthquake from, or really anything, especially a poison jab from a Barbarical, but it was just like salt on the wound at that point. So, either way, we'll go ahead and go on to the next match, which is the last one for today, and it's the match
Brandon,
between.
saying you're salty. I'm just wondering.
I'm a bit
A little salt.
salty. I'm gonna move on though because that salt. I don't need to have that much salt in my life.
All right.
If I want that much salt, I'll just go to Florida. Um.
There you go.
So this last match, I really like Bronzong and Manectric here. I would say they're his win conditions in this match. Chandelure is the only exception to that because if it's scarfed, it still rips through his team, unless the Bronzong is heat proof, which it may very well have been. I can't remember honestly, but Bronzong walls most of his team, and I especially like Bronzong because it's a really good answer for Cloyster. It walls everything that it throws at it. It's honestly hilarious. Um, I just wish it got Thunder Wave. But also, then we've got Mega Manectric and no electric immunities on the Charmeleonaire side, so spamming that powerful Volt Switch um, is a really good idea here. And, Chandelure's Shadow Ball puts in the work because the one thing that they don't have on the Lapras's team in this match is a Ghost Resist or immunity, and Shadow Ball just puts in powerful damage here, which I don't know if he capitalizes on as much as he could have, or maybe he just didn't need to, but I see that as being a huge advantage here. But yeah, I really like Bronzong in this matchup too. David?
As far as the plays go, there were quite a few that I thought really hurt. Um, Early on, you've got Swampert with Galvantula, which is fine, except that Galvantula has access to Energy Ball. And that's, I know, tough, but it's 4 times, and I guess it's hard to know that going in, unless you've played one before, but they do, like, that is kind of a common pack on Galvantula.
I would have just gone for Giga Drain.
Right. But it either way, with access to grass, Swampert is not a good matchup with Galvantula at all. So you got to get out there. You can't just sacrifice Swampert right away. On turn 4, he missed out on an opportunity um, in a big way. Um, Couple of things. One, you've got the shell smash, which is fine. You've still got Bronzong at that point, so it's an easy switch into Bronzong. Bronzong, like you said, walls anything that Cloyster can do at times 2, at times 3, even. I don't know at times 4. I've never damage calc that, but I would imagine he does pretty well at times 4. Um, but instead, he stays in with Manectric. You're going to get outsped at that point and killed, and he doesn't Mega Evolve, which if you're going to stay in, at least Mega Evolve and get yourself the Intimidate. Um, Not that, I mean, at that point you're in some trouble anyway. But um, then you've got the Toxic, which I think he said was a misclick, but Poison moves do not work on Poison Pokemon.
Or Steel types.
Or Steel types. I liked Zen Headbutt on Salamence. I thought that was a really cool, um, really cool move to bring. It's not something you see all the time. But then you get Unburden Hitmonlee at the end, and he's just going to outspeed the rest.
Not having Coffin at that point was really rough.
Right. Cofagrigus saves your butt at that point, but I believe he still had it, but he brings it in at like 19%.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, the issue there is just, you've gotten yourself worn down at that point so much. You had answers, but I don't think they were really utilized. If you're going to go with the Moxie Salamence, it looked to me like he was running a bulky Moxie set, which usually you either run a fast Moxie set or a bulky. Right, a Scarf Moxie or a bulky Intimidate. You got to kind of choose.
Yeah, he should have had Scarf because that would have definitely made the difference.
Exactly. So yeah, that team has a lot of promise. I thought it was interesting that he ran a special Cofagrigus. You could tell by the amount of damage that it did that it was not just a pure wall, and that kind of caught Dan off guard. But on Dan's side, you just got to watch for the sweepers. And then Mega Venusaur comes in and just walls so hard. So, yeah. Shout out to Big Dan. Planthony is one of the best nicknames that I've seen so far in our league. So that's about all I got on that one.
Yeah, I guess I'll just say two things. I really like the Zen Headbutt play to have as an answer for Mega Venusaur. So that was cool. And then I also like the normal gym Unburdened set on the Hitmonlee that really put in a lot of work. So I think that's it. I was surprised that Chandelure went down when it did. I guess because it was really early, but it ended up not mattering at that point. So
the only thing I'll say on that is I'm not sure why you locked yourself into Fire Blast instead of locking into Shadow Ball.
Yeah, because Shadow Ball is guaranteed neutral damage.
Yep, guaranteed neutral on anybody, and super effective on Bronzong and Cofagrigus.
Yeah. And none of, you didn't really have anything that was, particularly good at being a special wall to ghost types. Right. That was a neutral hit, so.
Right, he had a chance with, I think he was Scarfed. And so if he'd have locked himself into Shadow Ball, I think he had a chance to sweep right then and there.
Yeah.
But it was a good match. Couple of learning points. I'm hoping that we see Bronzong continue to come in with multiple abilities and multiple ways it's being ran.
It's so frustrating because you can never tell what it is until you make a mistake.
Which is beautiful if you run it right.
It's so fun. Go back and watch Season 3, guys. Bronzong was fun to use.
Yep. So anyway, yeah, good matches overall. I thought that pretty much everybody did a pretty good job.
Yeah, and I'd just like to add that I feel like there's still just a lot of really solid competition this season, even more so than last season, and it's just exciting to see the constant back and forth, especially with some of our newer guys that you can tell that they're learning and they're um, improving on their game, and so it's just cool to see that working, working out for everyone. So.
Yep, I agree.
Alright guys, well, thank you for watching week three's recap. Next week we'll obviously have the next week of recap, and as I've watched 2 matches already, it's going to be some good stuff, so look forward to that. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all next time.
Peace.
Thanks for watching, guys. If y'all enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like, and if you want, subscribe for more videos. Hope to see y'all in the future, and thank you for watching.